Welcome back. It's still Business Morning right here on Channels Television. And we're talking housing now with about 20 million units deficit of housing. That's the number that we have. We've been talking about mortgage and some innovative ways to fund housing, affordable housing, I guess I should emphasize on that. Well, let's see the ideas that will come from the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Imperial Homes Mortgage Bank. He's also the President of Mortgage Banking Association of Nigeria, Mr. Ayo Oluokere, right here in the studio. Mr. Oluokere, good morning and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning. My pleasure to be here.
Great. So why does it seem like solution has continuously eluded us in Nigeria when it comes to providing affordable housing, even though we see a lot of buildings everywhere?
So you mentioned affordable housing. I'll be very careful in using the word affordable in this discussion. Maybe I'll talk about appropriately priced housing from a point that is sustainable to developers. So we have a lot of reasons why people mention 28 million, 20 million, or 15 million, depending on who you are talking to. I think affordability sits at the core of this problem. How can people afford this housing? I don't think the issue is the issue of supply. You have mentioned that every year or every administration comes with a new idea of how to pump in more units of housing into the supply. But, you know, it keeps eluding us because the problem keeps growing. We have a growing population. Of course, we have the demography of young people also growing into familyhood. We have growing urbanization with infrastructure to support it. We have globalization and remote works that make it possible for people to be anywhere and work. We have cross-border payments and remittances, making the diaspora interested in what is happening here and they want to invest. So all that adds to the growing demand for sustainably priced housing units. And so I would say the first problem that I see here is for government to come to terms to the scale and the impact of this problem. Government needs to come to terms that it needs to provide leadership, first of all, and the leadership have to be intentional. We see a lot of government programs now. Currently, this new administration, aside the one the Buhari administration did over 8 years, we have the Renewed Hope Housing Cities to do 250 housing units in all the capital cities of Nigeria. I think they've started with 6 or 7 of them. Then we have the Social Housing Initiative to do 1,000 units in all the local governments. So all that roughly gives us 800,000 units in the next...
if it is achieved.
If it is achieved over the next 4 or 5 years. You know, it's housing you're talking about now. And based on the deficit, we need average 800,000 to 1 million housing units every year, so that in the next decade, we've covered maybe half of that deficit. And if we're lucky, that deficit is not growing more than what we're putting in. So I think there needs to be much more realization on the side of government that this is a problem that can be solved from a supply and demand side. On the demand side is affordability. You build, can people afford it? On the supply side is how many are we putting into the pipeline to block all this. So that is what I see broadly about the problem of sustainably priced housing.
Yeah, because I wanted to come back to you on appropriately priced housing and affordable. Because, I mean, the truth is, we're in Lagos. If you go to the island, for instance, you see a lot of unoccupied units of houses.
Yes.
Right there. If you get close to it, some of them tell you it's for sale, it's to let, and all of that. But the pricing actually, you know, sends you back to where you're coming from.
Definitely.
You know, and yes, we hear of social housing policy by the government, but if those things are there, I mean, if you go beyond, I think between Lagos and Ogun State, there are some government ideas. You see some housing units there, most of them maybe not completed and all of that, and unoccupied.
Yes.
So is it the location? Is it the housing? You are the president of the mortgage banking. Anyone wants to get mortgage now, the equity alone, it's not for an average man. So I think that's where the issue of affordability comes in. If you go to Abuja, you see a lot of unoccupied houses, but they are just there. They're open for rent, they're open for sale, but how many people can afford it? So I guess it's the issue of affordability that we should actually be giving a lot of the intentionality you talked about from the government. That is where it should be focused on.
So a lot of things determine the prices of houses. location is a very critical part of it. So when you say affordable housing, maybe depending on where you are talking of, it ranges from 10 million to 100 million, relatively. Maybe around this area, Isheria, Repo, there are some developers who are working it, and they are delivering housing units at 20 million, some at 17 million, some at 22 million, depending on what you have, but decent housing units. But you move up to Lagos Highland, maybe affordable housing unit as far back as Ogombo, Aja, will be from 50 million upwards. So that is why I said, let's work with the band of maybe 5 million, maybe, to 100 million. So there are a lot of things that come into this mix. 20 million housing deficit at a decent price tells you you have a gap of 60 to 100 trillion naira to block this over the next 10 years. We know what our budget is, even globally. So we will say that government needs to realize that on the supply side, let's talk about the supply side of affordable before we go to the demand side. On the supply side, we can only do a little. What we can do is, one, show proof of concept. Oh, this can be done in certain units, in certain area of Nigeria. See this design, it works well. It can be sustainably bleached. We can talk to the cement manufacturers. We can talk to the people importing or people manufacturing housing finishing materials to build affordable housing. Two is coordination and policy. There should be clarity. There should be continuity. Nobody wants to work in an environment or invest in an environment where there's no clarity and leadership and coordination. So those are the two things. There's a lot of volatility around government policy. Government needs to get policy right and just needs to show example. Then government needs to know that it is not my job to build 20 million units. And that is what every government wants to do. Opportunity to give contracts. Maybe we should leave it that way. That should not be the intention of government. So the next thing is, how do we attract private capital? Deep, broad private capital into this industry on the supply side. So you've shown sample, you've put policy in place, then you need to support. Government needs to put in great intervention fund on the support, on the supply side. So that is what we need. Look at what happens in the telecom sector. Maybe MTN is doing now 4 trillion naira revenue on a yearly basis. We know what they spend on CapEx. Government could not have done it. Instead, it will liberalize the whole sector, bringing players. What can I say? I have 20 billion US dollars, 30 billion US dollars to invest in CapEx and roll out. MTN alone has over 80 million subscribers or more. Maybe.
But government is working with mortgage. I mean, you have the secondary mortgage and the primary mortgage, and then there's a collaboration. I mean,
yes,
since you're heading the mortgage association, isn't that one way of government also coming in when it comes to funding?
So I said on the supply side, government put in place policy. Let's have clarity. There's
no clarity now, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a lot of people are working in silos, and I have to say that on the government side, on the supply side. Now, on the demand side, which is effective demand, where mortgage comes in, if you build, who can afford? Nowhere in the world everybody expects people to buy cash. It's only in Nigeria where abnormal things happen, and that's why we're having this abnormal situation where every year, I was working in ARM 2006, 2007, 18 years ago, and we're talking about 18 million housing deficit. 18 years ago, and every year keeps increasing because we like doing abnormal things. So we've told government on the demand side, we also need coordination and cooperation. So governments have a lot of good initiatives. I would say they have the HEMRIF that they just launched. ARM is the fund manager, 250 billion first close, 12% interest rate.
Accessing that is another thing, actually.
No, it's actually easy. It is putting the information there, and I'm sitting here and telling you.
I went to their website, and I tried to get information, and I couldn't.
Okay, you need to talk to mortgage banks, and that is why we are here. So, yeah, I'm going to give, we are going to come and tell your viewers how to talk to mortgage banks. So mortgage banks are there. We have over 26 mortgage banks scattered all over the country of Nigeria, and our focus is processing mortgage, long-term mortgage for people to buy houses. We are not commercial banks. We have a specialty. So that is the job of mortgage banks, and we're doing that. I mentioned to you, we have MRIF, we have the family home fund, which is priced very low as well. Over $160 million from the African Development Bank sitting there. And some people are tapping into the opportunity. We have the Federal Mortgage Bank, everybody knows it, 6%. The NHF, now they've increased from 15 million to 50 million. So there's a lot of these government initiatives that mortgage banks can help your viewers, can help people like you. People want to buy affordable housing, since interest rate is a major thing in determining whether it is affordable or not, to take care of it. So imagine having a house of 15 or 20 or 30 million naira, an equity contribution of 10%. You can take your time to contribute it. That is 1, 2, or 3 million naira. Then the remaining on mortgage, at single digits up to 20 years. These opportunities happen in Nigeria. So when I say coordination and cooperation, it means every partner in that mortgage side, which is a demand finance side, to say we need to put that information out there more, enlighten people out there more. Go to the website of Mortgage Banking Association. You will see all the lists of all the mortgage banks. Go to the website of the Central Bank of Nigeria. You see the list of the regulated mortgage banks. Tap in there, and then you talk to anyone. It is our job. That is the business we do. That is how we make money. Okay, so we've talked about the supply and the demand side.
You talked about coordination and intentionality.
Yes.
Because, I mean, as we all know, you just mentioned the NREF now, and I told you I actually went to their Instagram. I started chatting them up. I haven't gotten any response, but you said maybe I did it wrongly.
No, I did not say so. Yeah.
So the thing is, as you said, everybody is doing something. The government wakes up today and they have a new policy. There's a renewed hope one. There's the one for social and all. Who's supposed to do this coordination?
Yeah, so the government has a plan to actually have a overhaul agency that coordinates this. I am assuming that this should be the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. I'm assuming, this can be a task force by the president. He thought, the president said reform is very critical to delivering on his 1 trillion naira economy in the next few years, and he set up a presidential tax. So you can see how they were able to get this thing done. I think in the finance and the affordable housing side, there needs to be a sort of a coordination like that, so that the Ministry of Housing is doing its thing, all the other agencies and the initiative of government, everybody is coordinated. At the Mortgage Banking Association, we're working with all these initiatives because we know them, and we only do business when they function well. So it's to our own good that they do function well. And, for the mortgage banks, what we specialize over years, a lot of us have been in this business for more than 20, 30 years, Of course, maybe a little under the radar, maybe not as flamboyant as the commercial banks is. We specialize in making sure that you can tap into these initiatives, and then you get long-term mortgages. We also work with developers. We help them to access money, which government should be doing anyway, help them to access money. So we have a lot of developers that are pouring 2,000, 3,000 units of housing. As a mortgage bank, Imperial Home, I can talk to it. There are 2 developers on this corridor, Arepo, Mowe, and Ofada, that are doing over 600 housing units when you look at what they are doing together. But like I said, every mortgage bank is doing this, 26 or 25 of us. And if you add it up together, it matters for something. But more can be done, and all stakeholders are going to work together to make sure we do one. We're going to push all stakeholders in place because we know it matters, and how our lives depend on it.
So are you talking to the Ministry of Housing, anybody there?
Definitely, we've met with the Ministry of Housing, we've met with Mofi and Hemrif, we've met with the family-owned funds, and we do this meeting on a quarterly basis, continuous engagement. We have the NMRC that provides secondary funding to the mortgage banks to help them to continue to do business. Our regulator is the Central Bank of Nigeria. So a lot is happening. You will see a lot of good results soon. MRIF is just starting. Don't lose hope. And I will tell you, just approach any mortgage banks. Go online, just search accredited or registered mortgage banks.
So you're not supposed to go to them directly. You're supposed to go through mortgage banks.
You can also go to them directly. But what happens with going to a mortgage bank is they help you, they handhold you all through the process. And eventually, you will need to actually process this through a mortgage bank as well, eventually.
Interest rates?
Interest rates, 12%. Federal Mortgage Bank, 6%. Family home funds, around that rate. So these are very good initiatives that the government is doing. It's a subsidy of some sort.
Subsidy
and everybody is
that the people who are supposed to get it have not been able to tap into it yet. You said it's new, so let's. But you talked about location.
Yes.
You talked about location. That also affects affordability.
Yes.
And when this comes up, you want to look at the more developed countries. You see people come from the countryside to New York and the heart of the city. So I guess that brings up the issue of infrastructure again. I don't think we can talk about housing conveniently without talking about infrastructure that makes the housing livable. For instance, road, power, water, and all of that. I guess that should also be part of your conversations.
Yes. So part of the conversation I've been looking at, we call it government's body language in terms of infrastructure rollout. We see what the rail build-up has done. So a lot of people can decide to live in Ibadan and come to Lagos every weekend, or live in Abeokuta, because over an hour and a half or 2 hours, you are there where you live. So the rail does some. Even internet infrastructure helps, the globalization. I have a lot of young people in technology that services us in the mortgage banking sector, and they don't live in Lagos. They live in Akure. And because there's internet connectivity, they can do demo, they can push products to production for us to use. Then look at the coastal road as well. 10 minutes from VI to Orchid, to Ogombo in 15 minutes, to Shongotedo in 20 minutes, to Ekpe in 20 minutes. So all that axis will also be a lot of unlocked. So what we see is, urbanization made everybody wants to come to a cluster, but infrastructure drive by government, we also push all this, the blue line, the red line. So in Lagos, there's actually a master plan that lets you see where this thing goes. In other states, we need to see it. People underestimate the impact state governments have on housing delivery, really, because a lot of land, they know where it is, they have title to it, and then they know their citizens and indigents more than the federal government as well. So maybe we also need to see much more of touching hands between the state governments and the federal government and all stakeholders in this sector.
Another need for coordination.
Another need for coordination.
It does seem that's a major one for Nigeria, because we do have a lot of policies and great ideas, but
yes,
mostly in silos, in most sectors of the country.
In most sectors of the country. So there's intention of the government to try to do a lot, but there needs to be that overriding need for coordination and cooperation, most especially. If the government said we want to deliver 2 million housing units every year and get people that really need first-time home buyers to take these housing units, then you bring everybody together on the table. We're trying to have a housing finance dialogue, sometimes maybe in July, bring everybody together. As private stakeholders, we don't have any ego. We just want these things to move in a way that is sustainable and beneficial to all, especially Nigerians that want to buy houses.
All right, thank you so much, and we really hope that all of this will go beyond the talks. Your cooperation with the Ministry of Housing, for instance, I guess you can start from there, being that you're the Mortgage Banking Association
of Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ayo Olowokere, the Managing Director, Imperial Homes Mortgage Bank, and President of Mortgage Banking Association of Nigeria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.